People have lost all ability to communicate, at least the hard part of communication. Now, we live in a globalized world, first world and increasingly second world societies that are no longer cut off from one another. All we need to do is hop on a plane, and in less than a day, we are standing on the complete opposite side of the world. The internet allows for even faster communication transfer. It essentially is instantaneous. Now, as a former business owner and someone who's worked as a traveling salesperson, I've had the opportunity to not only interact but build lasting relationships with people of all races, economic standings, and religious orientations. As a salesperson, I have learned how to build enough confidence in a matter of minutes to hours, and they will write a check and hand it over to me for thousands of dollars and trust that I will get my portion of the job done. At these times, we would often discover that we were exact opposites, from gender to race to moral belief systems. So how did I gain their trust when we both knew that we held conflicting core beliefs? By knowing how to listen, respect, and appreciate their way of thinking and living without changing or disrespecting my own. Now, in order to truly believe and stand for something, we need to thoroughly understand and be willing to entertain beliefs contrary to our own. Today we're going to examine 3 principles of discourse. I am going to illustrate how our society has lost the ability to have meaningful colloquies, how this has led to lack of reverence in life in all forms, and how we must relearn that in order to integrate our beliefs in others, we need to reciprocate that behavior. So as a society, we have lost the ability to have engaging, meaningful conversations about topics and current events. This issue extends beyond population level dynamics. News outlets features anchors and stories who deeply embed personal bias into their reporting. For example, let's look at a mainstream treatment of the Alexandria shooting of Representative Steve Scalise and 4 others. ABC News, the Chicago Tribune, and CNN all said the shooter, which was Hodgkinson, used an assault rifle. While what an assault rifle is and isn't could be a conversation in propaganda all on its own, the current mainstream definition is a weapon with selective shooting. So the shooter used a SKS, which is a tilt-bolt semi-automatic rifle with no other settings. It's blaringly obvious that the mainstream media, especially here, was using this as a platform to push their anti-gun, fear-based agenda with no regard to factual reporting. Now, politicians yield ad hominem tactics against their opponents and the opposing party in every public interaction they hold. Even intra-party debates, such as presidential primaries, are saturated with hollow, wordy speeches which contain no absolute true substance. For example, Corey Stewart, he's a Republican, and I'm going to be calling out both ends of the spectrum here, and the chair of the Prince William County Board of Supervisors in Virginia. In February of 2018, he was running for the Senate, so the news conference at the Virginia State Capitol, where it was located, in regards to the Senate Republicans supporting Medicaid expansion, he called them liars, cowards, quote, pathetic, and I believe useless. And he then proceeded to call them flimsy, weak, and flaccid. When a reporter asked him to extrapolate on that, he said he felt sorry for their wives. Wow. I believe that when those running our country can't communicate maturely, that behavior saturates into the media. And we bombard ourselves with media. I mean, it's all over. We get it consistently, all the propaganda, everything, and we begin to exhibit that same behavior. So this has led to people who don't understand what a debate is, what it's really meant to be. They're personally threatened rather than invigorated when confronted with an alternative viewpoint. This embodies, despite their declarations otherwise, their lack of diversity and tolerance of other people and cultures. Since people avoid those who disagree with them, they begin to rationalize their avoidance, and they see them as less intelligent. And in many cases, they even see them as evil. This train of thought continues until they truly believe they deserve harm to befall them. And in some cases, they feel justified in being the one to cause them harm. Now, many people only associate with people who share their same viewpoints. If an individual doesn't share another viewpoint, they tend to simply avoid those topics of conversation. And indeed, many of us have been taught our whole lives to avoid topics such as religion and politics. But it's quite likely that in the history of humankind, no one has ever had their opinion change by being abrasively confronted. Now, the natural human response to being attacked is to go on the defensive. And even though the most patient people will have a subconscious confrontational psychological response and belief contrary to their own, it's like being obnoxiously shouted in their face. Now, one of the most egregious methods of recruitment I see all sides of the current issue is the vilification of the other guy. Now, by dehumanizing an individual or a group, you may make it easier to justify harming them rather than having empathy. And honestly, we need to embrace the third option, which is maturely engaging them in an intelligent conversation in which each person calmly expresses their point of view and then actively listens to the alternate point of view. And then after carefully listening and evaluating, we can then either present a counter argument or alter our own viewpoint. Now, the key to holding a successful conversation is respect. In such conversation, each person calmly explains their point of view and actively listens to the alternative point of view. And they can present a counter argument, or you change your own viewpoint. And treating others with respect and hearing their points of view, we're able to better understand why we hold our point of view. And then we decide not to do our beliefs, or not to alter our beliefs. We more deeply root ourselves in what we believe. Ultimately, we can agree that the root reason for talking about hot button issues is to convince others to think like you. If you want another person to be willing to accept your point of view, you must reciprocate that respect by be willing to change yours. That doesn't mean you have to be easily persuaded. It's about getting the respectful state of mind. It's quite possible to be firmly rooted in your point of view while still keeping an open mind. The other individual will be able to sense your open mind, which will prevent them from becoming defensive. By that same logic, you must be gracious if the other cedes their stance. So not cocky whatsoever. To summarize, there are the three main principles I covered today. Our society has lost the ability to have meaningful conversations, and this has led to lack of reverence for all forms of life. And we also must relearn that in order to integrate our beliefs in others, we need to reciprocate that behavior. In short, the point I hope you all take away from this is that in order to truly believe and stand for something, we need to thoroughly understand and be willing to entertain beliefs contrary to our own. And so the next time you're hanging out with a friend or a family member, and the conversation starts to veer precariously towards a hot button topic, don't shy away from it. Muster some courage and remind yourself that disagreements don't dictate the ability to maintain relationships. And dive decisively straight into the topic. You'll find that by discussing intense topics that often lie close to people's hearts, you can grow closer together by engaging in meaningful conversations.